Well, our Pacific correspondent Sean Dorney is in the Cook Islands. He joins us now. Sean, it was a pretty impressive welcoming ceremony for the Prime Minister.
It was quite extraordinary. I have been, I suspect, to 15 or 16 Pacific Island forums. I wasn't here in the Cooks for the last one here, but I've been to a lot of others, and this was, without doubt, the most glorious entry by Pacific leaders. They were each carried in on these huge, great shoulder-high trays with their seats on top and acknowledging the crowd cheering from either side. They were flanked by children from different schools who were each allocated a country. The school allocated to Julia Gillard apparently sang Waltzing Matilda as they came in, and she was carried in by these young Cook Islanders men and lowered down to the ground and then greeted by the Cook Islands Prime Minister. She was the last one to arrive. All the other leaders had come in before her, but she was the final one, the only woman leader.
Now, of course, once that very glorious welcome is finished, of course, there are major issues on the forum's agenda. Go through some of the issues that they are going to be tackling.
Well, the theme of this year's forum is the oceans, the health of the oceans, and that covers quite a few things, like climate change and the health of the fisheries stock. So fisheries is going to be an issue that's discussed, climate financing, financing for adaptation by these, especially by the smaller Pacific Island countries. Seasonal labour is an issue that Australia and New Zealand have now got permanent schemes, and that's a positive as far as the islanders are concerned. There's also a review of the forum and the forum secretariat, which was quite scathing about the way the forum secretariat was conducting its work, and also critical of the dominance of Australia and New Zealand. But it's going to be interesting to see how the leaders treat that report, because there's also supposed to be a review of the whole Pacific plan that covers the Pacific region, and the smaller island states are suggesting the review of the forum should follow the review of the Pacific plan.
Now, Sean, Fiji's absence from this forum is always quite contentious. Its return to democracy, is that going to be an issue for forum leaders?
Well, a number of Pacific Island countries depend heavily on Fiji. Tuvalu and Kiribati, you almost can't get to either country unless you go through Fiji. And there is that sentiment that Fiji should be brought back into the fold. Papua New Guinea's Prime Minister, Peter O'Neill, told us yesterday that he wouldn't support Fiji's re-entry until there were democratic elections, and that's pretty much the stand that Julia Gillard told her Australia would be taking at this forum.
When we see progress in Fiji, we're prepared to acknowledge progress has been made. When we see progress, we're prepared to, as a result of that progress, change arrangements. So, for example, because we have seen some progress, there is now discussion of an exchange of High Commissioners. But the key to coming back into the Pacific Island Forum and to being acknowledged around the world as, back from where Fiji has been, is a return to democracy. It's having an election.
And briefly, Sean, you mentioned Julia Gillard is the only female Prime Minister, but she's also going to make a major statement on women leaders in the Pacific. What are we likely to hear?
Yes, it's not just women leaders. It's a major gender statement. I'm told that it could come to a nine-figure sum that Australia will spend over 10 years to encourage not only the election of women, but the education of women throughout the Pacific. And Julia Gillard did say that the economic future of the Pacific would be enhanced with the greater emancipation of women.
Sean, good to talk to you. No doubt we'll hear more over the course of the next few days. Sean Dorney in Raratonga.